So, good afternoon and welcome to Life Coach University. This is another Pay It Forward talk or PIF Talks. And I'm Norma Frahn. I am your coach of the month for January. And I'll be here all month talking about weight loss your way. I am a certified life coach and nutrition coach. And my program that I work with my clients, both privately and in my membership, is called Weight Loss Your Way. And I like to take people through this process of discovering what's possible when you can let go of diet culture and dieting and really think about what's possible when you learn to lose weight your way in a way that works for your life. So that's what I'm going to be talking with you about all this month. I'll be here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the same link. So I invite you to join me here. And remember the the mission of Life Coach University, and that is to coach millions more. And the PIF or PIF talks that we do are really the cornerstone of Life Coach University. And we do them so that we can share our message out into the world. And the only thing we ask in return is that you pay it forward with some act of kindness. So as you're listening to today's talk, start thinking about how you might be able to do that. Even if it's just sharing something that you heard today that really resonated with you, that'd be a great way to pay it forward. So before we dive into my talk today, I just want to remind you of a couple of housekeeping things. I will have a Q&A session at the end of my talk, and you can leave your questions as they come up for you in the Q&A box. If you just hover your mouse over the bottom of the screen, you'll see the box that says Q&A, and you'll be able to type in your questions. And at the end, I'll pull them all up and we'll go through as many of them as we can. And if we can't get questions answered or you didn't ask one in time or you're watching on the replay, I've put my email address, support@normafrahncoaching.com, right in the name section in the bottom left-hand corner. My goal is to be sure that all of your questions are answered. So if we can't do it live here, please feel free to email me and I will absolutely respond to you as quickly as I can. All right, so let's dive into today's talk. And let me just change my screen and get my notes because I don't remember word for word anymore. All right, today's talk is a subject that's I'm really very passionate about, and I think it's something that is really required and to learn so that you can learn how to lose weight your way and keep your weight off. And that's really disconnecting from this idea that our happiness and our worth are tied to our weight. In other words, when I'm sure if I were a betting woman, I guess I could say I would put all of my money on the fact that some of you here today are listening on the replay really believe that your happiness and your sense of enoughness or self-worth is directly connected to your weight. Now, I know this because I believed it. I gambled away much of my life chasing the very same idea. And I believed with every fiber of my being that when I lost weight, everything would be perfect. Every single problem in my life would be solved, and I would just be happy all the time. I believed that. So I chased weight loss. Dieting became my identity and my mission. And the more I dieted, the more I hated myself and my body. And ironically, with every diet, I got further and further away from the happiness and enoughness that I thought the diet was going to bring me. So why do we do this? Why do we keep going back to the diet culture well and looking for another solution? Well, I think it's because when we're dieting, we get these little tiny glimpses, momentary blips, as false as they may be, of what we think happiness and enoughness really feels like. So when I was dieting and I'd jump on the scale and the number was down, just elation would just wash over me. And when it was down enough, I allowed myself to be enough, at least until I looked in the mirror again and thought, oh my gosh, don't get too excited. You just have too far to go. Now, I know these little glimpses into happiness and enoughness weren't real, they were false, but their pull was really strong. That allure of the slightest possibility that I could someday love what I saw in the mirror was like a magnet, and it kept pulling me back in no matter how hard I wanted to push against it. So I suspect if you're here listening to me this month, you probably have a similar story. And I also know that because if you're listening to this words and listening to my words, you also may have a little crack in the door, just enough. It's open just enough. And all you need to do is take that first step to start believing that maybe your happiness and the sense of feeling enough has absolutely nothing to do with your weight. And here's something I would love for you to think about. What if your focus on weight loss was exactly the thing that's keeping you stuck in this never ending pursuit of happiness? Instead of weight loss being your goal, what if your goal was the thing you keep putting off until the number on the scale says what you want it to? When we're waiting for that elusive number that your dreams that it's really just like your dreams being sabotaged by this current belief that you're not worthy until you lose the weight. So am I onto something here? So let's keep going and maybe it'll make a little more sense. Let me ask you this. Have you ever given yourself permission to dream without the condition of losing weight first? What are you doing in that dream? Life isn't going to wait around for you or going to wait for you to lose weight. It's happening around you right now. And now's the time to start living it, living that dream, no matter what size your body is. You deserve to be happy right now, today. So let's start to figure out exactly what you want. Now, this might feel like a big, scary question right now. And that's really only because you probably haven't allowed yourself to go there, to start thinking about what would actually make you happy that wasn't tied to your weight. And you're probably hanging on to that belief that when I lose weight, then I can be happy and I'll do all the things I want to do. That's just wasting time, my friends. I can't tell you how much time I wasted in that cycle. So, when you're thinking about this, what comes to mind when I asked you what do you want? Now, I'm not talking about the big like meaning of life purpose right now. I'm talking about the little things. What would make you happy right now that maybe you're putting off until you lose the weight? It could be something as simple as a new haircut. Maybe it's a different job. Maybe it is a big thing like starting a business or learning a skill or speaking a language or taking a trip, writing a book, going back to school. Maybe it's just deeper connections with other people. The sky's the limit when you let yourself imagine and let your mind run wild with what could be possible for you now, regardless of your weight. Think about what would give you joy. When you follow your joy and do the things you love, you will find yourself, and eventually that big purpose of life question that's going to start to emerge. So now's the time to stop putting off your joy and your happiness and really start creating your life, the life you want. Again, regardless of your size. Disconnecting is really the first step to finding happiness. You've got to separate the happiness and the self-worth from your weight or the size of your body and stop trying to prove to yourself and everyone else in the world that you're trying to be worthy by losing all this weight. And when you do this and you can truly let go of that and make that disconnection, everything becomes easier and more enjoyable, including the process of weight loss. So I know this whole concept of happiness and worthiness is very deeply tied to what you think about your body. Now, we've all been taught through diet culture that our bodies must look a certain way to be acceptable or to be enough in this world. So what have we done? We've just went to war with our bodies trying to force it to be something different, something smaller, something leaner, something stronger. because then and only then we'll be good enough. Or at least that's what diet culture has conditioned us to believe. And as a result, we spend so much of our time and energy worrying about what we look like. Imagine how much time and mental space you'd have if you weren't constantly waging this war with your body. So think about this. And I'm going to use, maybe this is a bad example and I hope I don't offend anybody, but think about a person or someone in your life that you really don't like. Sometimes it's helpful to think of like a celebrity. So I am not a fan of the Kardashians. I just don't care for them. I don't care for the work that they put out. I just don't care. So I don't talk very kindly about them. And in fact, most of the time I just ignore the Kardashians. I don't give them any attention at all. And if I do give them attention, it's usually negative. You probably heard it in my voice when I did this as an example. But the same thing is true with the relationship you have with your body. If you dislike your body, you're probably not talking very kindly to it or about it. And you're probably not paying a lot of attention to your body and how you're treating it. So it's absolutely the same thing. You can't dislike your body and take loving care of it at the same time. I can't dislike the Kardashians and sit down and watch their show and enjoy it because I just can't. It's just opposite sides of the magnet, just polar opposites. So the same thing is true with how you think about yourself. So here's what I want to say about this. If you desire lasting weight loss, it will be a byproduct of acceptance and self-love. And it will happen when you take care of your body and nourish it and love it, not just with the food that you put on your plate. It all comes down to how you're thinking about it. And this is where intention comes into play. When your intention is self-love and not self-loathing, health, wellness, and even weight loss are going to follow. Because when you're taking very good care of yourself and you're doing it with intention, you make better decisions and you're not making those punishing, self loathing decisions that you'd make when you're feeling like you can't like what you see until you lose weight. So, this all starts with examining your current beliefs about your ability to be happy and feel that you're enough. And beliefs can be a real bugger too. They're usually very deeply rooted and are attached to something or someone from a long ago past. And I would even argue that it isn't even that important to understand how you came to believe these things, but as much as it is to intimately be aware of the fact that they're there right now and how they're showing up for you. And you have the power to believe something different. Now, it may not feel that way yet, but I promise you, you do. Now, once you're aware of your current beliefs, then it's time to start wrangling in every bit of courage you have and decide what you're finally ready to let go of. What stories have you been telling yourself about your body or the way you look or your weight for years, maybe even decades, that simply aren't true? Now, I know this part probably feels really hard and maybe even a little wobbly. It's supposed to. Challenging a deeply held belief, no matter how misguided it may be, is really scary business. I totally get that. And we're creatures of habit, we're emotional beings. And anything other than our habit, the thing that we currently believe, might feel a little bit unsafe to us. So change is uncertain and unknown. And our minds absolutely hate that. Now, even if we know it's good for us, our brains are going to give us a fight. But now's the time to be courageous and embrace the possibility that you can change and you can change your beliefs about yourself and you can be happy and enough right now in this very minute. Now, you may have heard this before. You may even heard me say this before, but it's worth repeating. You are not your thoughts. Your thoughts, some thoughts you've just had for a very long time, and you've thought them so often that they've become these beliefs that you're holding on to. But they're the things that are keeping you stuck. those are the ones that we really have to go digging for. And some of them are going to be really obvious and right on the surface, and others are going to be buried a little bit deeper and are going to take some mental excavating to find them all. So, like so many things you'll hear me say this month about weight loss your way, the secret is patience and time, letting go of the quick fix mentality and kind of settling in to this place that says this is going to take some time to unwind this and learn a different way. So, let me give you an example of how or what I mean when we talk about our thoughts and how quickly they spiral. So, one of the thoughts that I had that was very deeply ingrained, it was one of those that I believed, and because I just heard it somewhere in my life, just like I said before, and I hung on to it. And that thought was people who are overweight don't care about themselves. Now, I believed that thought for a very long time, and I'm not proud of it, but that was the belief that I had. But what my brain would do is let me down this big spiral. So when I had that thought that people who are overweight don't care about themselves, it immediately became, I don't care about myself, or I wouldn't be overweight. And then that always spiraled into some version of, I don't deserve respect because I'm overweight. And that led me to, other people won't see me or hear me until I lose weight. And then that always led me to, I'm going down, I'm going to keep myself small and I'm going to hide until I lose the weight because I'm not worthy and until I get that weight off. And then that led me to like the granddaddy of all thoughts. When I lose weight, I will have earned my voice and I will deserve to be seen and heard in this world. Then I'll be happy because I will be enough. Do you see how fast that can pick up like a snowball and spiral when you have just one thought that takes you all the way down the funnel? And I deeply believe that my weight was the only reason I was unhappy and was not worthy. So that was my biggest work, and it's the biggest work of so many of the women I work with in my programs. But my point wasn't sharing all that, is just to see how quickly our minds draw these connections to our beliefs. It's like adding a link to a chain over and over again until the chain's so long we can literally wrap ourselves up in it and become a prisoner of our own thoughts. But you can break that chain by removing one link at a time. Here's the time and the patience part again. That's the work of learning self love and acceptance. And it's the work that's finally going to allow you to be happy and worthy at any size, regardless of your weight. So a great place to start with this, and I think it's a little bit of an easier place to start because it's what some of these things are going to be right on the surface. You don't have to dig too deep to find them. And that's with this idea that our thoughts create our reality. And I think what we've talked about so far today kind of points to that fact. What we focus on, we create. When our focus is on the negative, what other people think of us, and and worrying about all the things that could go wrong, we put a spotlight on those thoughts, and that only makes them brighter. It amplifies our worry and our fear and completely blocks us from seeing the possibility of good that's right smack in front of us. Now, this is where inner dialogue comes into play. And this is the place that I think is easiest to start because it's, again, pretty surface level. Have you ever paid attention to how you talk to yourself? My inner dialogue was absolutely appalling. And sometimes I think I would say it was downright abusive. I would look in the mirror every morning when after getting dressed and say really terrible things to myself about how I looked. And then I would go about picking apart every single part of me, my hair, my eyebrows, my shoulders, my double chin, my big stomach, my thick waist, and on, all the way to my feet. Every single morning, it was like a ritual. So it was no wonder I believed I was unhappy and I believed that I was worthless because I was tying that all to this negative image that I had of myself. And I reconfirmed it every single morning like clockwork. That ritual literally set up my thinking about myself for the entire day. I couldn't be proud or happy or excited about anything because I was mired in my own negativity. And when it was too heavy to carry any longer, I turned to food for relief. And then I'd start the self beat down, and the whole cycle would start all over again. Now, breaking this cycle starts from the inside. I've said this before about Weight Loss Your Way, and I'm sure you'll hear it a lot this month. It's an inside job. Your your external world will never change until you see your internal world differently. And that means catching all of those negative self-talk things and stopping them dead in their tracks. I often ask my clients to spend a week just paying attention, doing nothing else but paying attention to the words they say and the thoughts they have about themselves. Most of them are completely shocked at the list they've curated by the end of the week, if they're keeping track like that, and even appalled at the way they talk to themselves, just like I was. There's something about seeing that list of insults and beratements that you put on yourself that instantly triggers something that they hadn't experienced in years or maybe ever. And then self compassion. Every woman I have ever worked with is a beautiful, kind, loving person. And they'd give their shirts off their back to anyone else. So when they see how terrible they've been treating themselves, it's kind of like a punch in the gut. So I ask them to hold on to that self compassion that they're feeling in that moment, hold on to it tightly, and don't get real hung up on it, but just apologize to themselves if it feels right. They've given themselves the gift of awareness, and now they can get to work on cleaning up all that negativity and those self-loathing thoughts. So this is the real work that a diet alone will never address. And this is why, like I said in the beginning, we keep going back to the diet well. We're not getting to the real issues. I believe it's the most important work you can do and very much a prerequisite to making any change in your life that matters to you, including pursuing a smaller body. Waiting until you see that number on the scale that you've always dreamed of is a strategy that's going to continue to fail you. Cleaning up the inside and working to change how you think about yourself and your body is the door you have to walk through to experience all of this, to experience weight loss your way. There is no other way to do it. So I would love for you to start making that list and get to work. Agree with yourself right now that you'll no longer say those things about yourself ever again. Remind yourself that none of it's true. It's just something that you've done, and it's things that you've thought over and over that have just become beliefs, but you can change those beliefs and you have the power to change them. And it can start with just a simple but consistent message to yourself. Every single time you hear the negativity try to come in, just imagine a big pause button. Just push that pause button in your brain and say out loud to yourself, I don't talk to myself that way anymore. Oh, excuse me. I thought I could make it through. So, anyways, push that pause button. Remind yourself that this is not how you talk to yourself, and then just keep doing it. Some days you're going to be exhausted from your brain being on high alert and then redirecting, and but it'll be a good exhaustion. And every time you make the effort to catch the negative self talk and then shut it down, you're building a new pathway in your brain. A new belief is forming because you're now allowing your thoughts to work for you rather than against you. I am so sorry. Excuse me for that, but I did not want to cough in your ear again. All right. So again, you're just building new neural pathways. Think of it like a groove in the sand. Every time you have a new thought or catch the negative talk and redirect it, the groove is just going to get deeper and deeper. And eventually it'll just take over. the groove that you've got in place now, that negative self-talk groove. And this is where the magic of disconnecting happiness and enoughness from your weight happens. When you start talking to yourself better, you start to care a little bit more about yourself. You make better decisions, you form better habits, ones that are actually grounded in true self care. Your mind and your body, they start to heal, and you start to actually believe that you are enough right now, today. And best of all, you start to experience happiness. The fog starts to lift a little bit, and you don't worry so much. The little things just don't bother you so much. Traffic doesn't annoy you anymore. You worry less about being judged or what other people think of you. You walk a little taller, your mind's a little clearer, and you're thinking a little more clearly about yourself. This is that amazing place where possibility lies because weight loss doesn't feel as desperate now. It feels more like an act of self love instead of necessity. And it becomes more about your health and your wellness. And you can now start to actively listen to what your body's telling you it needs. There's suddenly a space to decide what you want, not what you think you should want. And once this snowball really starts rolling down the hill, you're going to experience momentum, and you'll want to challenge yourself a little bit more. That's your confidence starting to build. That's you feeling like you are enough and what you're doing is enough. The act that you've been doing is that the acting that you've been doing all these years is starting to fall away, and you're becoming more and more comfortable just being yourself. And this is the part that's filled with so much wonder because it may have been since you were a child that you actually let yourself be you. So spend some time there. Don't rush this process. Trust the process. Practice doing the things that make you happy. Little things like ordering the food you really want instead of the salad you've always ordered because you think you should. Get that sassy little haircut or buy those brightly colored blouses. Do the things that make you happy now that you never gave yourself permission to do. This is the practice of self love and acceptance. And there is only one you, no one else is like you. And it's time that you really got to know you and know what you like. So let's wrap up this discussion with just a couple of quick takeaways. First, pursuing weight loss so that you can be happy or feel like you're enough in this world is only going to keep you stuck in this vicious cycle of dieting and self loathing. And it's going to prevent you from really feeling happiness right now. And second, it's important to start doing things that make you happy now, not waiting until the weight is gone. That's the greatest gift of self-love and acceptance that you can give yourself. Remember, you deserve to be happy at any size. And last, to start healing the relationship with your body, the best place to start is in your own self-talk. How you talk about yourself is a direct reflection of how you think about yourself. But the good news is you are not your thoughts, and you have the power right now to stop the negativity and start getting acquainted with that uniquely amazing person that you are. All right, let's see what we have for questions. Okay, let's see. First one's this is so true. I believe that I would be happy if I could wear that dress. And I also believe that I was happy on so many other things too. Like if I got that pay raise or that partner or that car. Yeah, exactly. This just doesn't apply to weight. We oftentimes put so much of our happiness on something external to us. And it's like I said before, it's those little glimpses because it gives us those little blips of what we think happiness is. But when we're ignoring what we really want that's going to nourish our soul, we're missing out on so much. But that is so true. It's such a great point that it's not just about weight. You can put this absolutely on anything. Great example. I did it with my job. I thought that climbing the corporate ladder was what I should do. And if I got high enough, I would be happy. Well, you know what? There wasn't a whole lot of happiness to be found up there. And it was because I never did any of that work on myself. I was pursuing something external to me. Great point. How did this happen to us as a culture? And how did we make weight equal happiness? Oh gosh, talk about like the question of the universe here. This is kind of like where did babies come from? This is a big one. I think we could timeline this out all the way back to, and some of the research I've done, it goes all the way back to the Industrial Revolution in terms of diet culture. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, we were mostly we did lots of farming. All of our work was manual, hard work, labor, and dieting wasn't a thing. We just fed ourselves, we worked, we went to sleep. There was nothing in there that said that we had to look a certain way to be able to do that job or to survive. But somewhere along the line, when the world started to industrialize and started to expand and get bigger and change, and we started connecting to each other, weight, at least in our recent history, became a big deal. And I'd say, gosh, around the 40s and 50s, from the research I've done, is when the diets first started to really gain some traction. And unfortunately, it's just spun into this wild business. It is a multi-billion-dollar business. And the marketing machine of the diet industry is tremendous. I mean, it's probably the best marketing in the world. I mean, when you think about it, all the people that get sucked in and pulled into it because they've learned how to play on our emotions. They've learned how to tap dance on that very nerve that keeps us from ever achieving success. We're never going to achieve any of our health and weight goals if we keep going back to that particular well of diet industry to try to fix it. So that was a little bit of my personal opinion and a little bit of the history thrown in the mix. But the point is, we've really come so far down the path of connecting weight to happiness, which is why I put so much emphasis on this is the work. This is the place we have to start to actually create lasting weight loss. We have to learn how to be a happy human being right now. Otherwise, we're never going to be able to disconnect from that monster machine of the diet industry. Let's see. Someone's asking, do you speak to teenagers like do you go to high schools? I think my daughter and my son would really benefit from what you're saying. I have not, but I will be completely truthful. It is something that I want to do. I have an 8-year-old granddaughter, and I worry so much about what her life will become as she gets older and gets exposed to society. And I just fear so deeply that she's going to get tangled up in this whole weight thing. And I just can't stand the thought of her spending most of her adult life like I did, battling something like weight. So while I'm not doing it now, I will tell you for sure that is a goal of mine, and it is something that I want to learn more about. I'm not trained with to to guide teenagers, but I think the message itself applies to every human at every age. We have to learn how to be happy and love ourselves. And I don't think that requires any special training to do that. So I thank you for bringing that up and reminding me that is such an important message. And like I said, it is something I do want to look into. Let's see. What do we have here? Your thought chain from overweight, don't care about themselves really highlights to me that I have a thought chain around my disability. This is very insightful, painful awareness, but insightful. Yeah, that's the thing with this. And this is where maybe it's a little bit of a caution. It's okay if you're feeling a little bit of pain, but don't beat yourself up over it. Don't make more pain. Don't beat yourself up for having these thought spirals. It's completely normal. And in fact, I would think it would be, it's probably a little abnormal when people don't get caught up in this because it's so prevalent in our society. It's just so deeply rooted. So please don't beat yourself up if that's happening. And if you're feeling a little bit of a painful awareness, I love that expression. Maybe twist that thought around just a little bit and turn it into something that now I have awareness. Now I can do something about it. So I think awareness is a beautiful thing. Even if it feels a little bit painful on the surface, it truly is a gift because now you know. Now you know what you need to work on. So embrace that awareness and try not to sit too long on that pain. All right. I think that is everything we have for today. Let me just quickly double check. Yep, looks like it. Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you all for listening today. I know this was a little bit of a longer one today, but like I said, I'm really passionate about this subject. So I wanted to spend a bit more time with it. I will be back on Friday for um, the last call for this week, and then we'll continue on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in January. Now, the other thing I want to remind you about, besides paying it forward with an act of kindness, please don't forget to do that. If you haven't checked out Let's Coach 2023 on the Life Coach University website, I would strongly encourage you to hop over there and do that. Let's Coach 2023 is a new program, and it's squarely rooted in our mission of wanting to coach millions more. And here's how it works. We have a team of coaches from all over the world who are making themselves available every day of the week for a period of time to just coach. And you can come into any one of those sessions with any of the coaches. I will be there on Fridays at 3 o'clock Eastern time. And you can get coached live, real time on whatever it is that you want coaching on, all for the cost of $20 for the entire year. Every session that you want to join, it's all covered. Just with that one-time payment of $20 gets you in to coach every day of the week if that's what you wanted for the entire year. So it's an amazing program. Head on over to lifecoachuniversity.com. You'll see the link, Let's Coach, and you can go in there and get the schedule. You can see who the coaches are, what their areas of expertise are, and get yourself signed up to get some coaching. It's a beautiful gift that you can give yourself. All right, everyone, have a great evening, and I will be back to talk with you some more on Friday. Have a good one.